What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of For the Love of the Game. If you're watching now on YouTube, please subscribe to the Muscle Media Network. Like the video, leave us a comment, send it to a friend, ring the bell so that you're notified every time we post up a video. We're coming at you guys multiple times a week. As always, this episode is brought to you by Kodiak Bodybuilding Apparel. Train hard and die strong. Thanks to Chris for supporting the show. Today we're bringing you guys a guest, Jerry from JL Nutrition Supplements, prep coach, now supplement company owner. Jerry, what's up, man? Thanks for joining the show.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I really, really do.
Yeah, so we were just getting a little fired up off air before we even started recording. So let's dive right into it. Jerry was at North Americans this past weekend. I know all of us had kept a pretty close eye on the show, so let's just dive right into what we were talking about. We were talking about kind of the quality of the conditioning from the guys. It looks like as a general theme, and I'll put it out there that way no one's like falling on the sword right off the bat. I asked you, being that you were there, I said, man, was it the same as some of the photos? Because I looked through some of the photos myself, and I just felt like from top to bottom in a lot of these lineups, the conditioning standard is just nowhere near what I remember it being when I was, watching some of these national level shows, nationals, USA's, North Americans, like, mid 2010s. Like Turner did them a handful of years, and it felt like guys in the third call outs were diced. And now it seems like maybe two or three guys a class show up and look like they dieted for a show. So let us know your thoughts. You were the only one that was there in person. So how did it look up close?
I agree with you 100%. What you see in the photos is exactly what you see from the crowd. Okay. Let's be realistic and let's dive in. Conditioning is not there anymore. In my opinion, like I said before, before we started recording, been doing this a very, very long time. Been around for a very long time. One of my mentors, well, actually, who did get me in this was Bob Gruskin. So many, many years ago. The conditioning there, I don't see dugout hamstrings. I don't see, a lot of people say, oh, glutes this, glutes that. Glutes weren't there. Maybe, top 2, top 3 in each class. They were there. But the days of seeing your competitors come on the stage and seeing the dugout hamstrings, seeing the conditioning, posing, but posing terrible. I mean, if you can't hit a side chest, what are you doing at a national level show? Like these are basics. All right. So, and I know me and Turner talk about the basics all the time. Basics is, if you ain't practicing the basics, you're not going to make it to, be and bring out what your full potential is. If you can't display your physique on stage, like, what good is it? As far as conditioning goes, like I said, I don't see. I see washed out abs. I see shallow backs. Yeah. Like I said, the lines, conditioning in the quads. I mean,
Jared, let me ask you. You told us like you were doing this a long time. You told me off air you've been coaching for 19 years.
April will be 19 years. April this coming year.
That's incredible. So you've seen like several different eras of bodybuilding. You're there at North Americans and you're naming all these things that we're just not seeing from guys that are making this commitment of showing up at a pro qualifying show. What is it? Do you think it's guys not wanting to suffer? Is it guys worrying too much about what they weigh on the scale?
All right. Man, Turner's over there rubbing his hands right now. I guarantee you. All right. So here's what it comes down to. It comes down to the fact that we're in a market right now where it's flooded and it's saturated. All right. If I have a competitor and the competitor doesn't like what I'm doing and I'm making the competitor suffer, there's always a hook, line, and sinker out there, coach, down the street that's going to tell them, hey, man, come with me. I'm going to be able to feed you more carbohydrates. I'm going to be able to lessen up your cardio. Come with me.
Yeah.
The days of throwing 2 hours of cardio at somebody are over.
Yeah.
They're dead. They're dead in the water. Guys would more rather take copious amounts of stims, T3, clenbuterol, yohimbine HCl. They'd much rather be doing all this DNP. I mean, they would much rather do the copious amounts of stims, right? To get conditioned for a show. All right. Take the health risk. Let's talk about the health risk. All right. Because coaches, if you're taking these compounds and you're not up to speed on this and you're just throwing things because that's what your coach threw at you. All right. Health ramifications, number one, heart health. I mean, conditioning on stage, meaning posing conditioning, the ability to hold a pose, not be winded, be able to hold your abdominal region in. Why do you think the guys in the 90s weren't winded like that? Why do you think, you had the guys in the 90s who would get on stage and first call out would come out, they'd file off and they'd be on the diagonal, right? Waiting to be called back out with possibly a new lineup of 5, all right? While holding relaxed pose, you didn't see them sucking wind. Those guys back then, I mean, they were doing the cardio, right?
Yep.
You cannot sacrifice conditioning. There's a total difference between cardio conditioning and stim conditioning. And that, I believe we're seeing the stim conditioning right now. If you're a conditioned athlete and you come into a show, absolutely peeled. If you are peeled to the gills 2 weeks out from a show, all right, why would a coach reinvent the wheel going into quote unquote peak week, right? Why would you reinvent the wheel going into peak week, knowing damn good and well that second week before your athlete is going into a show, they're waking up every single morning dry as a nun? How much more drier do you want them to get? If you are absolutely peeled, your body will not retain the water. So now all of a sudden, people will follow. Oh, well, you know what? This is my water protocol, and they're going to pump diuretics into a client, right? And we all know once you start pushing a diuretic, number one, will only work when you're pushing water. That's it. If you have, now with my nursing background, if you have a patient who comes into the emergency room with severe edema, what do they do right away? It's IV LASIK drip. So you're getting normal saline into the body as well as the LASIKs, correct? So now you have coaches out there doing bare minimum water, pushing a diuretic. Your body's and basically it's inhibiting the body to store glycogen. And ultimately, that's what your goal is, right? When you're carbon up for a show, store glycogen. It's making things virtually impossible. So when we were talking before about washed out abs, I guarantee you that's one of the main reasons why we're seeing washed out abs. That's the reason why we're seeing athletes come into the shows looking flat, coming flat, very, very flat for prejudging. All right. Coming to flat for prejudging. Once you start using a diuretic, that's it. You have a 50-50 shot of getting it on an athlete. All right. You wake up in the morning flat, you're fucked. Like there's literally nothing you could do if you push diuretics in an athlete, right? So now you go to prejudging and now you have finals at 6 p.m. And then all of a sudden we're going back to finals and we're seeing guys looking, holy shit, they look dry, they look good, they look hard, they look much fuller than the morning, right? It's because guess what? After prejudging, go ahead and drink, a half a cup of Coca-Cola, or go drink a full cup of Coca-Cola. Let's get some food in you, right? They reinvented the wheel. Why? It makes no sense to me.
It's the same thing too. You're making the same point because I see a ton of guys in the photos even that were pouring sweat. And it's like, man, this wouldn't happen if you were in shape. I don't care what the protocol was. If when you're peeled, it just doesn't happen. Like, I mean, we even see it with some of these pros, man, some of these pros that are notorious for struggling with their conditioning and showing after showing, it's like, oh man, he was just sweaty and watery at prejudging. Well, you're not in shape then.
Exactly. And I had a welterweight in the show. He took first place in 40 and over, first place 35 and over, and then controversial second place in the open. Very, very controversial. But he was peeled to the gills. If you see photos, like I sent Turner photos, like when I say peeled, was peeled. And I didn't have to do anything different than him. I kept everything the same as 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, because we kept waking up super, super dry. No diuretic usage whatsoever. Keeping water in. And everyone, I'd be like, you in there pissing? He's like, yeah, I'm in there pissing. I'm like, all right, measure it out. Yeah. Because what we were pissing, we were drinking anywhere between 3/4 of what he pissed and half of what he pissed. Okay. So we were continuously pushing fluids, but yet we're also drying out in the same process, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So. And it's like, man, like a lot of times too, these guys that when they are ready early, like you see them post workout or something, it's like got a couple meals in, they got plenty of fluid in, and they look hard and full. It's like, man, why would you change anything?
So let me ask you a question. All right. You ready for this? You're 3 weeks out, you're flat as shit, right? Walking around. You go to the gym, you have sodium, you have potassium, right? To get a good sodium potassium pump, right? You go into the gym, you hit, let's just say you hit chest, shoulders, strides, right? And you're like, holy shit, man, I'm blown up, right? I feel fucking good right now, baby, right? You take your hoodie off and you look at yourself, you're like, holy fuck, man, I'm full as a tick, all right? What's the difference between those few minutes of looking full as a tick in the gym, being very, very, maybe possibly no carbohydrate, to you being on stage for how long? A few minutes on stage, right? Why are guys pushing crazy amounts of carbohydrates into athletes and saying, oh, they need to get full, they need to go. Listen, a little bit of carbohydrates is going to go a very long way. You get a pump, guess what? You're gonna look full, right? Yeah. So if you're already dry, why push crazy amounts of food into people? To me, it doesn't make sense. It was never that way. It was never that way in the past. You filled out, yeah, of course you filled out, but I mean, I hear people eating 1,000 grams of carbs, 1,200 grams. I'm like, good God Almighty, what the hell do you need all that shit for? You think your body's processing that when you're barely drinking any water? Do you know how much water it would take to process and convert to glycogen? 1,200, 1,000 grams of carbs. Like, you better not cut water out. Like, your body's not processing. You're not filling out. You might think you're filling out, but you're not. You probably could have got away with doing maybe 150, 200 grams of carbohydrates for the amount of water that you're drinking.
Yeah, I think too, sometimes I hear some of these numbers and like you hear those numbers a lot with like bigger guys, which I understand why people will do it or why they might think it. But a lot of times though, then these bigger guys have struggled with their stomach control on stage. And to your point, it's like, man, you can get that full look with some hydration, keeping your sodium normal, being in shape, and then just pumping up and going out there, and your stomach is going to be tight. Whereas like you can see it right away, especially like you were just there at the show. When somebody comes out and they have no stomach control, it almost dismisses them from contention, I feel like.
And I mean that then shouldn't that be a staple? I mean, I know me and Turner talk about it all the time, and I know Turner's athletes are posing 16 weeks out. I mean, 16 weeks out, 20, 30 minutes. I mean, that's to me that I think it's an absolute necessity to have your clients posing, 20, 30 minutes every day at 16 weeks out.
Yeah, that's a lot of what you've said, I think, comes down to coaching. I think there's a lot of guys who will probably be moldable and do what they're told. You'll get the few guys that are just pussies and can't do what it takes to get conditioned. But I think it comes down to coaching. And I mean, you can answer because you were there. Were there a lot of guys in the later call-outs or the lower placings that probably shouldn't have even been at a national show?
Absolutely shouldn't have been.
Yeah. So
I don't know why.
That's that's poor coaching.
Yourself,
if you send your athlete to that show. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, ask yourself what show they won or got qualified at to be able to come to that fucking shit.
The Fargo Open.
Yeah. Yeah, the Mickey Mouse Classic in fucking.
It blows
I think that's on the coach too.
Every show is the Mickey Mouse Classic now. Like some of the coolest, in my opinion, like winning some of the qualifying shows. I think that is almost as cool as when I was strategically deciding how I was going to compete and what shows I was going to do. I was like, man, I've always thought winning that show or this show, whether I had to fly across the world or whatever to do that show, like coming in and just wrecking shop, I've always thought like that was cool. I mean, of course, winning nationals it really doesn't get any cooler than that, other than moving on and doing a pro and stuff, being a pro and stuff like that. But anyways, Jer, talk about I can't remember who won the supers. Oh yes, I do. Talk about this is something Jer and I've talked about in the last couple of weeks after North Americans. Like, I know we're all gung ho, mass, put muscle on, be big as fucking shit, just like a pure freak, right? Mm-hmm. But you could almost guarantee North Americans, USA's and nationals, the middleweights and the light heavyweights were going to be 35 deep and probably some of the craziest conditioning and structure, shape, aesthetics that you've ever seen on anybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like even, and I was telling Jared this the other night, Tommy. I said if Dusty competed in any of the last few national shows, like when he brought any of his national run preps, I feel like could just walk through any of these fucking shows, walk through it.
Yeah,
I mean, it would be like, well, this is a grown man. This is what bodybuilding's supposed to look like, and then here you have all these like baby bottoms.
I mean,
But
It's true.
anyways, I think that, and that's what made prejudging. Now prejudging, when you go to a bodybuilding show, it's no time. I mean, you're in and out within like an hour and a half. Like it used to take from, oh hell, all the lighter classes had 35. You know, you got bantam, you got all those classes. They had 35. So you think about the time to do every single one of those guys. But now, I mean, you know, some of these shows, a middleweight and a light heavyweight, they got 2 call outs. It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah. But
And I'm not even impressed. I'm not even impressed by them. Hey, Jared, talk about the bantamweight that turned pro at North Americans.
all right. So if y'all have not seen the bantamweight at North Americans, who actually, and I do believe he
looks like a middleweight.
was he's the first bantamweight at North Americans to win a pro card. If you go look at this little dude, I don't know what his name is, but my hat goes off to this man. He looked batshit crazy in person. And I'm telling you right now, and this might hurt feelings, but I personally would not have had a problem with the bantamweight becoming Mr. North American.
Wow.
I wouldn't have an issue with it, man. So now you have all the masses coming together, right? You got all the winners of each class coming into stage, right? So each of your bodybuilders earn their spot on that stage respectively in their weight class, right? So now when you go into the overall, in my opinion, all right, judges should be thinking, you know what? Old school thinking, old school mentality, all right? What was bodybuilding founded upon? Bodybuilding was founded upon size, shape, symmetry, conditioning, okay? What person on that stage fits the mold? Not the biggest person on the stage who might be big and doesn't have the complete, who best has the best complete package on that stage, all right? And it was the bantamweight. No, and I will argue that until I'm blue in the face with anybody. And he was the most complete one.
Jerry, you talking about this? He's like a Spanish guy, Jose?
Yes.
Jesus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Same. Yeah.
Insanity. I mean, absolutely crazy. He had it all. He was the definition of bodybuilding. So
the light heavyweight, good.
The super heavy,
The light heavy.
light heavyweight. Yeah, I agree. One person in the show, the super heavyweight. So Elias McCall.
Yeah.
I saw him at the PA Muscle. I had a few clients in the PA Muscle. Okay. When I saw him on stage, I said, that kid's going to be something special. He's young, 25, 26.
Yeah.
I think, you know, really, really good conditioning. He had phenomenal conditioning. He looked really, really good.
Yeah, he was ready.
Abs were washed out a little bit, but I mean, what, that are we going to piss over that? No.
I think
that was
the only. Yeah.
I think that was the only thing.
I was going to say with how big of a frame he is, I think, and like being a younger guy, he's got a ton of muscle, but I think to get him as peeled as he was a little on the flat side, but I think it was worth the trade-off, because I think that's probably what won him the class, because the guy that he won against was big and full, but not quite as sharp, it looked like.
The guy he won against also was 40 years old.
Yes.
Plus.
Yeah.
Right. So I talked about him too. I saw him backstage, and I don't know what his name is, but I saw him backstage.
I think it was like Alfonso Cromartie or something like that.
So he's, you know, being over 40 years old, you know,
I think he won 35 and 40 plus. So he won basically 2 pro
He did.
cards.
He did.
And then second in the open.
And you could tell he's starting to take a little bit of a hit in the leg department. But I would have loved. I don't know if he competed for a really long time. Like I said, I don't know anything about him, but I would have liked to see what the dude looked like when he was in his 20s, man, because he looked phenomenal too, backstage. I mean, he looked really, really damn good. But as you get older like that, it's hard sometimes, first thing that's going to go, when you're getting aging like that, forearms start going, and then all of a sudden the wheels start going, and there's nothing you can do about it, at that point in time. If you're going to be 40 years old, you're not going to have crazy looking legs over the age. You're not going to build upon anything, over the age of 40 in the wheel department. So, I mean, he looked great. That was pretty cool seeing the 40-year-old, beating up on people who were younger than him too.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys in that super heavyweight class. Yeah. I was going to say that, and not to like call anybody out, I'm not anywhere near that level, but there was a couple of guys in that super heavyweight class that I look at every year in the pro qualifying circuit that should have been pro 5 years ago, and they still just aren't nailing it. So, yeah, kudos to him, man, as an older guy to walk in and kind of put those guys in their place. Now, what about the heavyweight class? What did you think of the top 2 specifically? That was I think he's Colossus Ken on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's a guy from Jersey out here where I'm from, and that he won. And then I think the guy's name that was second to him was Jamal something.
I believe that's
he's out here he's in Arizona. Jamal Musba.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
Conditioning more once again.
Yeah.
I think the guys could have been more conditioned than what they were. Let's go back. I mean, I keep referring back to the past, and I hate to be, because how everybody is anymore. Oh man, everybody wants to talk about, the past, the 90s, the early 2000s, but there's a reason why we're still talking about it, right?
Yeah.
If you're still bringing up that era and that point in time, and let's go back to, 2013, 2014, nationals and heavyweights. I mean, when was it? Turner, 2018, Miami? 18?
What about it?
When you were in Miami? Was it 18?
There's been a couple years.
Yeah.
What are you referring
to? Your entire
what
class.
What moment are you referring
the year Hunter Labrada won the overall.
Yeah, I think that was 18. Yeah, that may have been 18.
Yeah. I mean, we could go through, first call out, second call out. And I mean, you could look at any of the guys in any of the call outs and you'd be like, God damn, like everybody looks great. Everybody looks crazy. They all had a spot there. They all deserved a spot on the stage. Every single call out pretty much, back then. I mean, everybody was conditioned. Everybody was battling it out. It was almost like, man, I hate to say it, but like sometimes, I'm looking at some of these call outs and I'm like, it had to have been like a bucket list for them just to say I did a national show. And that's sad, man. That's sad. We're giving out tremendous amounts of pro cards to people who do they actually deserve it?
Right.
All right. So what is it? And me and Turner talked about this yesterday. All right. If you're playing semi-pro baseball, that's a direct representation of a national show, right? Now, you get called up to the major leagues, all right, which is basically representing you winning a pro card. They're saying we're calling you up from the minor leagues because you could jump on that mound right now and throw that ball, right? You could play first base. We're going to put you in the batter's box. You're prepared for that, right? Are guys who are winning pro cards right now fully prepared to compete against other pros? Or is it, hey, man, we're going to give him a pro card because we know every single year he wants that pro status. We're going to get that money. What is it? This is me being real.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have like IFBB Pro in their Instagram title, and then I walk past them in the gym and they barely look like they have a gym membership.
And you just look at him and you say, really? Are you? Like, how? What? Where? Let me know.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to make the point too, like Tommy was saying before. I think part of that is like you guys both made the point. You were talking about like the coaching game is very saturated. Anybody who's ever put on a pair of trunks at this point is an online coach.
Yeah.
And I think it's twofold. I think it's poor coaching and a lack of experience, but then also it's them trying to sell themselves. So then, you know, they get a client that comes to them and say, I want to be a pro. I want to win a pro card. And then, you know, they go get second at the Mickey Mouse Classic. And right away, that coach knows, okay, I'm going to keep this guy in prep because that's another set of stage photos I get to post. That's another before and after that I get to post. And I know if I put this guy into an off season right now, he's not going to keep paying me. He's going to think he can do the off season on his own. So you know what? Let me keep him in contest prep for another 12 weeks and bring him into North Americans.
So let me ask you this. All right. If you're one of these coaches right now, right? And you just step foot on stage and, you know, you got last call out and you're like, hey, I'm going to contest prep people. This is my time. Right. And you take on a client. Okay. And you take on this client, you sell him your best gig. All right. And you hook, line, and sinker him in, and you bring him on board with you. And then all of a sudden you say, oh man, you know what? I have to increase cardio. And that client is like, hell no, there ain't no way I'm doing an hour plus of cardio. Right. Well, some of these young kids, do you think they're going to be, you know, if they're, let's just throw a figure out there. They're charging $200 a month for contest prep. Right. Client, that client comes to them and says, hey man, there ain't no way I can do over an hour of cardio. Right. That some of these coaches out there are afraid to lose people. So they're like, oh man, okay. All right. I won't give you that much cardio because they don't want to lose $200.
Yep.
That's what it is. They literally will be afraid to lose $200. So now all of a sudden the athlete wins. I know damn good and well, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I can't eat asparagus, you better find a way to eat asparagus. You know what I'm saying? You better find a way to eat that asparagus. You know, oh, I don't like cucumber. Oh my God, the seeds. You better find a way to eat that cucumber, man.
What if they do a blood test on their food types and it says they can't eat asparagus? What would you do then?
Yeah, they get a GI map done. Yeah.
What if they can't? Hey, Jer, what if they can't eat tilapia? They won't eat fish.
Then they better pick a new sport. Y'all better go do something else. You better go play basketball.
Well, I know coaches that won't make me eat fish. Nick Walker says he doesn't eat any fish. You know how many pounds of fish Nick Walker's ate on his run to try to be a pro? Like, I think that's funny. Someone will put that, and I don't mean him, but I hear shit like that all the time where someone's like, oh yeah, man, I heard that so-and-so never eats fish.
Man, the Chinese people were over there working overtime in the tilapia plants to send it over here for Nick Walker. Man, y'all know how many chickens we kill every year? Shit, man. Hey, God, the days of doing things, and I shouldn't say they're not over because there are some athletes out there who are going to do it. But the days of doing things by any means necessary, we're not seeing it.
Well, I think right now there's like, for people listening to this, like we have guys that compete that listen to this, guys, gals that compete. Man, like there's never been an easier time to be a standout. Like if you are one of these guys that are willing to do it, like, man, there's never, like, it used to be like we talked about, you know, in the 90s or even some in the early 2010s classes that Turner did at national level shows, like nailing it and being a fucking killer didn't guarantee you anything. You could be the most savage person that you know and end up in the third call out. Yeah. Now, all you have to do is check your boxes and you're probably going to be near the first call out because there's just not that many people that are willing to do it. And that is not even just contest prep either. How many people do you see that just show up the same on stage every year because they don't take their shit serious in the off season?
Yeah. And that was one of my posts yesterday on Instagram. I went into
back. Yeah, why don't we see fucking?
No, I couldn't.
Turner froze up.
You froze.
Did I
Why
cut
don't we
out?
see what? Why don't we see what?
Can low lats.
Low lats. Why ain't we seeing it anymore? Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people are going in the gym and they're thinking that, you know what, this machine here is gonna hit my lats, my lower lats. You know, this machine here is gonna be great. I'm gonna focus on that 2-second negative. I'm gonna focus on that explosive positive. You know what? Man, training has totally changed over the years. If you want to get big, you pick some heavy fucking shit up and you move some weight. We see it in guys. We've seen it in guys. People are like, oh my God, why is Ronnie Coleman's back so big? Y'all ever see Ronnie Coleman doing T-bars in the corner? He pick up heavy fucking shit. You want to get big, pick heavy shit up. You know, yes, I think it's absolutely fantastic to connect your mind to the muscle. But yeah, on the other hand of things, how many times you walk into a gym anymore and see people with free weight throwing 405, 495 on the bar and doing bar rows with it? You don't see it anymore, do you? You see it very regularly. You see it, you see it from the guys who are crushing people at shows.
Yeah.
The people who are crushing people at shows, guess what? They're in there saying, I'm focusing on my muscle connection. I'm focusing in on the squeeze. I'm lightening up the weight. Well, you think you're going to get that density, that hard, grainy look from doing that? Listen, I was around Kevin Levrone back in 2016. And I was there with Kevin. Kevin was my best friend. I saw him training. I saw him putting 405 behind the head again on the Smith machine. I saw Kevin here in my own house take his shit off and just be like, what the fuck, man? There ain't no way a guy his age should be looking like this right now. His body responded. He had no issue going into the gym, 405, 405 pounds on an incline and banging it out on the bench press. He had no issues training heavy. And he brought it. He was hard and grainy. You know, we're not seeing that hardness anymore because I believe people are training for a different purpose. All right. So when you're dieting for a show, right? What does weight training in the gym do? You're trying to preserve muscle, right? You're trying to preserve the integrity of the muscle. In a caloric deficit, are you truly in a pretty good deficit? Are you truly going to grow any more muscle? No, you're not going to grow any, right? So what are you trying to do? You're trying to hold on to the integrity of the muscle. You're trying to bring out the best in that muscle. You're not going to do that by dropping weight because you're feeling tired. I'm feeling tired. Oh my God, I don't have the energy today. Jesus. Oh my God. If you can't go into the gym and say, holy shit, man, I'm 4 weeks out from the show. Like, I got to fucking kill this shit. And if you can't go in there, put something crazy on your headset and go in there and say, everything I do right now, when I step foot on stage in 5 weeks, that's when it's going to be displayed. Everything I do right now from this point on, every set, every single rep that I do is going to be displayed in 5 weeks. I have to get absolutely crazy right now. I have to go to a dark place in my mind. I have to, every time I go into a set, I have to think to myself and vision my number being called in the last call out. If you do that, man, last call out's a lonely place to be, right? So you're going in there and you're listening to that crazy, whatever, that crazy ass music blasting in your headsets, right? And you sit down and you have that heavy ass weight. And you're getting ready to pick this up and your vision in your head over and over and over and over again. Man, I can't wait to pick this shit up, right? And you go to that dark place and you grab that bar and all of a sudden you close your eyes and all of a sudden the music that's in your head, it goes mute. You don't hear it anymore. The lights in the gym, they go dark. There ain't nobody in there, it feels like, besides you and the weight. And you grab that weight and you move it. After that set, if it doesn't feel like you're in a physical fight, then I don't know what to tell you. I've been there plenty of times in my mind, and I think when you learn to train like that, I think that's a beautiful thing. I think anymore, a lot of there's too many cameras involved, too many people worrying about slowing down sets, slowing down reps because, man, the camera's on me right now. I can't do this, right? How many guys do we know right now on the Olympia stage that got to be where they are by training crazy, like I just said? They got to be where they are, right? And then all of a sudden they change their training style. For what reason? You got to be who you are based upon what you did. So why all of a sudden are you going to flip the script? Ronnie Coleman had it on his mirror in his room. If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. People reinventing everything right now. Used to be, oh, reverse bands. Now all of a sudden people using bands to add weight, right? Man, it's all fad. Everything. Everything is a fad anymore. Everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel. Kevin made fun of me the one day because I put bands on a hack squat to make it harder, not reverse bands, to make it harder. Kevin commented under one of my pictures. You know what he said? What the hell type of millennial shit is this? And he was right. I look back and I feel stupid for doing it. I'm like, damn, I didn't need to do that. You know? I don't know, man. Times are changing. And I think it's really, really coming down to the way people are training. You see guys going into the gym now, and they'll walk into the gym and get a new gym membership because that gym has, oh my God, you see all the crazy great machines they have in there. Rather than walking to the gym and saying, all right, how many 45s and how many barbells do they have? How many squat racks do they have? How many areas do they have so I could work out with free weights? How heavy do the dumbbells go up to? You don't see that. Now it's like, oh my God, that machine's awesome. Look at that.
Yeah.
They paint their machines red. I like red.
That's like you were saying though, with like shallow backs. That was something I noticed just going through all the photos from top to bottom at that show. And that's just one of those body parts. And I went through it myself. I needed to improve my back. I did some single arm shit. I did some cables, this and that. And I grew some width to it. But then, 4 months ago, I sent Tommy some pictures and I was like, what do I need? He's like, your back is wide. It's just shallow as hell. You need to start pulling from the floor. And I was like, fuck, he's right.
Right.
You see it right away.
Yep.
And you just look around and I think that I see a lot of backs now that Tommy pointed that back out to me, and after getting away from it for a little bit, man, that might be one of the biggest common themes that I got. I went through every single competitor that did North Americans in bodybuilding, and that was maybe, besides the conditioning aspect that we talked about, that was one of the biggest common themes that I got. And it goes with conditioning, like you talked about. Like, man, why are Ronnie's glutes so crazy? Why is his lower back so crazy? Because he goes in and rips deadlifts off the floor. He does free bar T-bars. He does fucking barbell rows and dumbbell rows. There's not a single machine in the entire plan.
How many we could go back through old training videos, right? And let me ask you this. In every single training video, you see guys training traps, right? How many times do you see guys going into the gym and doing some sets of traps? Kevin, you go look at Maryland Muscle Machine. He had 6 plates on each side. He was doing traps, right? Yeah. Traps just up on top of your shoulder, right? They run 3/4 of your weight down your back.
Yeah.
So if you're training traps and you want some depth, you have to train traps. I don't see guys training traps anymore. I see these little itty bitty things on top of their shoulders. That ain't giving you that full spectrum. I don't know if you've seen Samson just posted a video. Dude, from the back, his straps look retarded. Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep things politically correct.
No, let it fly.
As much as I possibly can. But seriously, his traps, the way his traps sit and the meat going down the center of the back, I'm like, good God Almighty. He trains traps, So now you have these guys with these little bitty things and they ain't got nothing in the center. It's because they ain't trained. They're not training the complete back, That's one of the movements that I see that a lot of guys aren't doing. Traps are so damn important, man. That keeps everything in alignment. Then we have bodybuilders say to themselves, like I said, traps running down the center of your spinal column, right? That's stabilization for your spinal column, right? So now you have bodybuilders saying, "Oh man, I'm going to the physical. I need to go get chiropractor work done because my back is coming out of alignment, right?" Well, if you're doing single arm, naturally you're torquing your body, right? If you work more traps, you're building a stabilization. You're building that stabilization. All right. So it makes it harder for your spinal column to come out of alignment. Once your spinal column comes out of alignment, now you're dealing with nerves. Now you might not be feeling, might be one of the issues why you're not feeling something in a portion of your body while you're training. Everything goes hand in hand. This is bodybuilding, bodybuilding. And are competitors anymore getting their photos after shows and being real with themselves and picking themselves apart and saying, this area sucked. rather than saying, oh man, I look pretty good. All right, let's go into your offseason. No, you pick apart your physique. This area sucked. This area sucked. This area sucked. This area sucked. Now you come up with a game plan. You come up with a game plan and say, okay, well, I need to bring up these areas. And that's where you start executing, right? It's just like anything else. Are they doing that?
We have to have the humility to be able to do that. You have, like Joe asked me what I thought because he wanted the feedback, but also he was ready to take it from me. And I'm not coaching him, but that's how, if anybody's listening, you have to coach like that. I know Turner coaches like that, Joe coaches like that, you coach like that, I coach like that. Like, I don't praise people. And if I ever do, they're like, okay, I did something very good, because I don't give praise every update.
Yep.
Even in a prep, I don't comment on their physiques every week. Maybe down the stretch when I notice they're getting fragile and they might break, then I'll throw something their way, and that's a psychological move. But I'm not here to cheer you on into the show. I'm going to give you nothing, because I don't want you to perform based or for my compliments. I'm not the judge that's going to look at you on stage. But you have to have the humility to look at your own physique and not praise yourself. You have to look at what do I need? And then as a coach, that's like herding cattle. You need to rein that person in, because they're going to come to you like, we got to grow. We got to put on 30 pounds. This class, we're going to jump 2 weight classes. Like, all right, chief, hold on a second. This is what we got to do. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Now you give them a new goal and you set them on the path. I truly think it comes down to coaching. Like, you're in control of their mental, because a competitor coming out of a show is a fucking nut job. I've been there, but you have to have the humility to be able to take feedback and then apply it over a whole off season, not just for a month post show when the pumps are dope. And then once you hit a wall with appetite, you're like, I'm going to go drink this weekend, or I think I'm going to take this weekend. Like, it has to be a sustained collective effort into the next year. But I think it comes down to coaching. Like, if I got a guy who does a local show and he wins an overall and it wasn't a very strong show, and he wants to go to a national show, it's my job to be like, dude, you're not ready. We're not going. I have the final say. And if you don't like that, there's the door, but I'm not putting my reputation on the line for you to go get last call outs and waste. So if I say I do let him go, he wastes all his money, gets last call outs. He hates the sport now. He's going to quit coaching with me because he doesn't have any money. Whereas if I'm like, hey, dude, we need a year, or we need even 2 years. Let's clean up like 3 or 4 overalls before we do a national show.
Yeah.
That should be the mindset of a competitor at the local level now, because it's not the same as when you win 1 overall and then go. Like, I competed for 9 years before I did my first pro qualifier and still got second call outs. Like, it's a fucking long game in open bodybuilding. The other divisions, maybe you can jump that a little differently, but that's subjective too.
Maybe anymore. And you brought up a good point. All right. And I'm still carrying that mentality from years ago, where I firmly believe that if you are a top 5 national athlete, a top 5 bodybuilder, all right, you should be able to walk into any regional show with a 10-week outlook and win an overall. That's the way it was. That's the way it was, and I believe it now to this day. Still, if you are a true top 5, I think that would make things more competitive. Does that make sense? It would make things more competitive, because looking back upon those times back in 2018, 2017, 2016, that's what we saw. We saw guys at 10 weeks out going into regional shows and winning overalls.
Yeah.
And a good majority of them were the light heavyweights and the middleweights. They Turner wanted to be, I know Turner wants to touch on that, but man, I'll tell you what, middleweights and light heavyweights back then, man, they were big nasty bastards. They broke people's ribs, they broke people's feelings on stage. And I caught Mike Eli. I caught Big Mike in the bathroom, and I stopped him. I'm like, hey, Mike, I said, what the hell happened to middleweights? He's like, they're all tall. I said, man, I said, weren't they bigger back in the day? He's like, they were all like 5'1". I said, yeah, I agree with him 100%. Yeah, the middleweights were like 5'2", 5'3". Man, they were white as a brick shithouse. They're as white as a broadside of the barn, man. and they were conditioned, they were peeled. They look crazy, you know, light heavyweights. It was so competitive. Those two weight classes were nuts back in the day. And I just don't know what direction we're heading in. And I firmly believe that it comes down to our industry is saturated with coaches who are, one, afraid of losing clients because they are afraid of losing money. Two, they don't have balls to tell their client exactly what they need to do. No direction, you know, you see it all the time, like we just discussed about before, you know, not even placing first call out in their very first show, and now they're collecting people's money. And for the first 5 years that I did nutritional advising, I don't even like to call it coaching, I call it nutritional advising because that's realistically what it is, right?
Yeah.
First 5 years that I did it, I didn't charge people a dime. I wanted to work with as many people as I possibly can. I would have worked with as many bodies as I possibly can. I want to learn as much as I possibly can because I didn't feel worthy enough to take collecting a dime. All right. After 5 years, then I started, you know, getting paid for what I do. And I think it was literally, I think I was charging like $50. So it was a side hustle. It wasn't my main occupation. It was literally a side hustle, exactly what it was, because I had a full-time job at the time, you know. And then as years progressed, as I built my knowledge up, you know, and worked more and more, you know, then I was fully capable of, you know, making a very good living, you know, off of it right now, and then progress more and more, you know, into further other avenues of my life and more businesses and stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Actually, that's a good little segue because you were saying off air you have the supplement line coming out. So good time to talk about it. So you taking it from working a full-time job, being able to go out on your own and provide for yourself coaching wise, and then now you've parlayed that into this upcoming supplement brand. So tell us about it.
Well, it's been a long time in the making, man. It really, really has, you know, and it's actually been 3 years in the making. When COVID hit, you know, it really, really put a damper on a lot of things. A lot of people don't understand, you know, like bottles, you know, 1 year back order on, you know, a certain size plastic bottles. The raw materials weren't coming over, you know, for China. It was hard to get raw materials, you know. I mean, there's just so much. And to be quite honest with you, I ran into a lot of hiccups, you know, and a lot of hiccups that it was me doing this, you know. I will say I had very, very good guidance with the gentleman who I said previously, you know. Kevin did help me significantly, hooked me up with the right people to, you know, get things rolling, you know. He believed in me, you know. When I got hooked up with the right people, it was a blessing from the good Lord above, you know, that I was able to go and look and say, you know what, I can do this on my own. I don't want business partners. I want to do this on my own. This is something that I don't want to have arguments with, you know, a business partner about, you know, potentially coming out with a new product, whatever the case may be, you know, formulations, whatever it may be. But overall, man, I'm the type of person that I care. So I care what I'm producing. And it took a lot of time because I'm very, very detailed with what I do. And at the end of the day, I want to be able to put my head on the pillow and be able to go to sleep at night saying, you know what, I provided the absolute best that I possibly can for all, you know, anybody who does purchase my products. So I did want to separate my supplement line between a health line and a performance line. So my performance line is called the Platinum line. My health line is a health line. So we're going to be doing, on the performance line itself, we're going to be doing Sets Plus Energy, which is my pre-workout. There are going to be 2 flavors of that. It's going to be Peachy Rings and Blue Slush Puppy. Intra workout, I call it enhanced essential amino acids because actually, got the container right here. So the enhanced essential amino acids, we did 10 grams of fermented essentials, 750 milligrams of creatine HCl, 5 grams of glutamine, 3 grams of Hydromax. And the reason why I did Hydromax in the essential aminos was simply due to the fact that you're trying to retain water, you're trying to retain pump during training. So hyperhydration prior to training, you should already be hydrated. So we're trying to retain that pump. So Hydromax significantly helps out in this product right here. And then also we added estrogen in there for the absorption matrix of things too. But fantastic product. Healthline. I did multivitamin. I did mitigator, which is total immune support, zinc standalone product, and then also a product called hydrotonics, which is your basic hydration drink that we might see on Walmart shelves. But I pumped that baby. I pumped that up pretty good, and I tested it too. You want to know how I tested it? last summer, I go camping a lot, so that's my vacation in my camper, and I don't drink, but I'll tell you, I the one night I'm like, we're gonna test this out pretty damn good, and I woke up the next morning, I was hungover like hell. I couldn't even function, and I added a scoop to my bottle of water, 16 ounces of water, and I drank it, and it was like 35 minutes. I felt like a new man. And I said, damn. I said, I got it going on. So there's other avenues that we're going to be taking, you know, as far as that goes. You know, we're going to be doing, you know, potentially doing shots as well, you know, start getting into mom and pop shops and bars, you know, and marketing, you know, as a hydration drink, you know, for people who do like to go out and party and stuff like that. So I think the big thing is we see a lot of supplement companies just one frame mind, like they're focusing on bodybuilding, right? Yeah. Bodybuilding literally is a grain of sand amongst miles of beach. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, in order to be successful, you got to take, you know, get yourself out. And it was hard for me to get my brain out of that bodybuilding realm and saying, all right, what avenues and how many other people can I reach out in the general public, you know, with a supplement company, you know. But yeah, man, we're flying pretty good right now, and redesigned the labels here a little bit. So we're getting them in. So now we're just coming up with some production dates, and we're going to be flying.
I was going to ask you, when are you expecting to be available?
Like I said, we're coming up with some production dates right now. I don't want to say anything definite, you know, because
all right, fair enough.
In the past, I was saying, you know, 5 more weeks, and it's all setback after setback after setback. And Turner's always on my ass. He's like, get that shit out in the market. And I'm like, oh man, you know, but yeah, it's been a work in progress, you know, and a lot to learn because like I said, you know, I don't have anybody. It's me. It's literally me working, you know, and learning everything, you know, and that rambling on here a little bit, right? To me, it's very, very important. I want to learn every aspect of my company. All right. So I want to learn every aspect of my company, how everything operates between, you know, my, you know, designing my website, you know, all the way down to the UPC barcodes and how to obtain the UPC bar, like stupid things like that. I want to learn everything. That way they're, you know, God willing, in the future, when I am fully capable of employing people, I will have a greater respect for the people who I employ because I've already been there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And then, so is the plan initially, at least, just to be direct to consumer straight off your own website?
We're going to be doing e-commerce. So JLNutritionSupplements.com. We'll have that up and running. And then also there's a few other places right now, brick and mortar stores that, you know, potentially want to bring it into stores. So.
Okay. Very good, man. Well, we'll keep an eye out for it, and congratulations on that, man. That's a hell of a project to take up. I worked at Universal Nutrition, like for the Animal Pack brand, for a long time, and to see what really goes into it, and like you were saying, a big part of it is like the relationships that you keep with people, and it's there's so much that goes into it. I think that the average consumer just has no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, so respect, man, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Turner, anything else you want to finish up with your guy here?
I had something that I was going to ask, but I totally forgot. So, you got anything you want to add, Jer? Anything you forgot?
I don't think so. I think we hit a pretty good amount of stuff, and I mean, I just enjoyed being on here with you guys and chatting it up, you know, and it was a good time. It was a good time. For sure. Hopefully people don't take offense to anything. You know, so guys like us, we never say things to go out and be like, hey man, I want to hurt people's feelings. No. You know, people who keep it real with people never want to hurt people's feelings. We just want to see people better. And that's what we want overall. I think every single one of us on here today just want to see things just get better. We want to see better conditioning. We want to see competition. We want the best for people. So, you know, men like us, you know, if we are hard on you, it's because we actually give a shit.
I'll just tell you right now, man, there's no concern. Like, we don't have the biggest podcast audience that you might be able to have, but the people that do listen, we built that because we keep it real. So it hits home with the right people, and that's, I think something that all of us understand, that it's when you keep it real, you're going to hurt a lot of feelings and ruffle a lot of feathers. Not everybody is going to like you, but it hits home with the right people. So I think this episode and this conversation with you was awesome. It lines up with the rest of the guests that we try to have on and the conversations that we try to have. So
Awesome.
with everything that you got going on, man, we appreciate you taking the time for the show.
I appreciate it very much.
A Kodak guy? Kodak Bodybuilding? Who is he?
Yeah, Kodiak. Chris Cirillo.
He messaged me off air, and he told me that he was I didn't even know he was a sponsor, but he sent me a shirt, and I just want to give him a shout out.
Awesome. Yeah.
Chris is a good dude, man. Yeah. And I didn't know Chris was a sponsor on here. Chris actually did I think they were my very first jail nutrition supplement shirts when I created them. I think it was 3 years ago. He was the man who did the screen printing for me.
Awesome.
So he's a stand-up dude. I like Chris a lot.
Absolutely.
I see him every once in a blue moon at shows, and sometimes I get to say what up to him, and
yeah,
we're both like running, because he always has his booth there, and I'm running to the back of the stage or something, so Chris is a good man.
Yeah, big shout out to Chris, man. Stand-up guy. He reached out to us, and really the whole point of it really was him just wanting to support the show. He wasn't really looking for much in return at all. So yeah, we thank him for that, and we thank you, Jer, for coming on. And we thank everybody that listens and supports the show. So until next time, guys, this was For the Love of the Game, and we are out.